I learned how to bend at the will of others. And it's weird that that was somehow my comfort zone. I hated it. I didn't want to do it. It created like chaos and torment in me on so many things. And I just wanted to be able to escape. And I didn't feel like I had the power to. Finding the power to like, no. Finding the power to, okay, this is how this is going to be. I'm going to get out of this situation. Finding the power to do that is what's outside of my comfort zone. And it was really hard to build that. I've been building that for a long time.
We'll make it out and fall in love tonight.
On today's episode of the podcast, we're getting into your comfort zone. Not necessarily your comfort zone. We're talking about the comfort zone and what it feels like to get pushed outside of your comfort zone and stretch and grow and evolve and all of those kind of things, which is something that we're both all about. I know that we are constantly kind of outside of our comfort zone. And we had a conversation however long ago, right? Time is so imaginary. Who knows when it was or when we had it or anything like that. But we had a conversation recently talking about the difference between consciously, like, you choosing to step outside of your comfort zone versus when somebody forces you outside of your comfort zone, when you're doing something that you don't want to do. So that's kind of the conversation that we're going to be having today. That's the topic that we're going to be getting into. But before we get there, I do want to talk about pickleball, which happens to be really outside of your comfort zone, babe.
Yeah, it's so far out of my comfort zone. I didn't even know that it was an area that I had to,
right? Like,
it was so far removed. Wasn't even a thought.
It's in a different hemisphere,
right?
It's a brand new comfort zone you didn't even know existed. And it's not for me because I obviously grew up playing tennis. Well, I don't know if that's obvious or not. I don't talk a lot about my tennis career on the podcast, right?
You don't.
But I had a very, I don't want to say short-lived. I played tennis in high school and was really good and had fun and did all the things that high school tennis players do, which was just play tennis, which was fun. It was great. So pickleball is coming very naturally to me. Mm-hmm. It's a very similar-ish sport, even though I'm rusty when it comes to tennis, which means now I have to kind of like unlearn some of the tennis stuff in order to learn the pickleball stuff, because a lot of the skills are definitely transferring over, but it's not 100%. Because I go to do stuff sometimes that's totally like a tennis move, and it's not working.
And it's not working.
It's not working at all. But it's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we're having a good time.
I can tell you're having fun when you play. It's fun to watch you, and it's fun to play with you.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's surprisingly fun. Like, surprisingly.
Right? You didn't think you were going to have this much fun?
I didn't think I was going to have any fun.
Did you begrudgingly, I shouldn't say begrudgingly, but did you very much?
It's a safe word.
Were you super scared to do it?
I was terrified.
Yeah.
I was not only terrified, like, it is not my jam. It is not my space. I'm not the person that just jumps out in front of a group of strangers and starts, I've never played sports. I don't have any of that background. I haven't had, I just didn't have that. It was really, really scary for me for so many reasons. And when you're like playing pickleball, and it started off with, you were kind of like suggesting it with our friends, and we were doing this thing and we just started practicing with these other people. It's like, I slowly was able to step into it, but I did not want to play. I wanted to do something with you, and you were so excited and doing it with all our friends. So I'm like, I can do this, but I just was like, I don't enjoy tennis. I've never played it, but it's, you love it and I love you, and I love that you love tennis.
Yeah, initially it was just going to be a fun thing that we were going to do on the weekends with our friends. And that's still a thing. And we're hoping to kind of like, if you're listening to this and you're some of our friends that are hoping to play pickleball, get your asses in gear so that we can start playing pickleball.
Ready to play pickleball with you.
Yeah. And then we started practicing together, right? So that we got a little bit of like a taste for it.
The first practice I was hooked.
Were you?
The first time I was like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
This is a blast. And I want to play pickleball I've never had something like, I want to do this every single day for the rest of my life. I love pickleball. What happened? Our son said, yeah, because you're old.
Well, speaking of old, the group of people that we found to play with is they're also the cast of Cocoon, because it's totally just a bunch of old people that are retirees that have nothing but free time. They even asked us.
Wasn't Cocoon like where they were older but were like young, like we're feeling young or something?
No,
I
we're
feel
not.
like I haven't seen Cocoon forever, but
Let's
feel like
rewatch Cocoon. Push play. We're gonna watch it on the podcast right now.
I did it with my Neuralink.
No, if you remember right, it's a retiree home like in Florida. It's an old folks home in Florida.
Yeah, but I thought they kept. Oh, they did. They kept getting
there were
young.
aliens. There were alien pods in the pool.
Yes.
And they would swim in the water, and it would rejuvenate them and make them feel younger.
Right.
And then So it's
totally Cocoon because they're out there
pickleball
and like
is an alien
bouncing all over the court with all this, like they are just going.
It's very cool. Yeah. So we're playing pickleball on like 3 days a week with a bunch of old people that are truthfully kicking our ass. We're out there running back and forth, pouring sweat, like legit pouring sweat, right? It's not a joke. It's head to toe covered in sweat. All of my joints hurt.
Everything.
Right. Everything is miserable. I'm damn near to the point of exhaustion by the time we get done with it. Yes, it's super hot here in Tennessee and it's summertime and the humidity is a nightmare. But it's also...
Not for them.
I know, right? They're just standing there like hitting the ball, watching me run back and forth. But it's a lot of fun. We're having a good time with it.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun.
I'm excited to see how you... My fear, and I'll just speak it right, is that it's another one of our ADHD hyper obsession focus things.
It really could be.
Right. Where it's like, because literally we'll come home from pickleball practice, get cleaned up, have some lunch, and then watch professional pickleball on TV.
Did you know that there's pickleball TV?
Right?
We didn't know
it's
there
not
was
just
pickleball TV. And it's like
Major League Pickleball.
Oh, it's Major League Pickleball.
Yeah,
and we're also watching like Utah Black Diamonds as a team. And so the first time I turned it on, it was like out of Salt Lake City, we have the Utah Black Diamonds. And I'm like, well, that's okay. So
it's
so we watch pickleball.
Yeah, it's our whole life now.
It might be a hyperfixation because
we're starting
the way
a new
that I love
podcast
it,
all about pickleball. I do love it.
Okay, so it's like public service announcement.
What is
like it's addictive.
It is addicting,
but also you should go play it because it's super fun and it gets your butt moving. And if you already have a moving butt, good job. Move it some more pickleball.
You already have a moving butt.
Yeah, I didn't have a moving butt, so this got my butt moving.
My butt was stationary.
I had a
It's super fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. That's cool.
Okay.
Well, it is definitely outside of your comfort zone, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Not only it's playing the sport, playing it with strangers, even then not being on the team with you at times, being like just thrown in with a group of people I don't know. Sometimes it's all guys that I don't know, and then doing little like everything is just. And then I have to wear shorts because it's hot. And I do not like to wear shorts. I do not like my leg. But I'm like, you know what? It's that or die. So I'm going with shorts. So everything, it's like.
Yeah.
We
got to get you a pickleball skirt.
Right? That's
the next thing we're moving towards. I think once if we really start getting wardrobe for the game.
Yeah.
Right? Then that's a good sign that it's going to be around for a while.
Well, I already know the good sign that it's going to be around for a while. We already had it, and you're close. Do you want to know what it is?
Let's hear it.
You bought yourself a pair of tennis shoes, or maybe pickleball shoes, excuse me. You bought yourself a pair of sneakers. You bought yourself a decent pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Just so you could play pickleball. And I'm like, you bought shoes for pickleball.
I'm not a fan of shoes.
You're not. So I'm like, oh, this is the thing. This is a thing. We do this thing. We play pickleball now.
3 days a week.
We're pickleballers.
We are.
We're the pickleball and podcasting duo.
There's a tournament in October.
Oh yeah?
We might compete. Oh. Just saying.
If
we get our skills up.
Right? I was gonna say
practicing.
like we can okay. Is it the beginners?
Yeah, of course, babe.
Tournament?
We're not I'm not putting you into some pro league already.
Oh, I'm ready.
We'll see. We'll see. But it's fun.
It's a lot of fun.
And it's outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, you keep saying that.
Well, I want to talk about it because where did you first hear? Because you brought up however long ago, right? This idea that you heard on whether it was one of the books that you're listening to or a podcast or a Joe Dispenza thing or something like that, right? But that part of growing your brain that only happens when you're doing
Yeah.
things that are uncomfortable and you're pushing yourself. And what's that all about? And
Yeah. I
like
don't.
butcher it, please. Like I don't expect you to totally remember it
Oh, it's
specifically.
gonna be butchered. It's gonna be butchered because I didn't know we were gonna talk about it too. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
parts of the brain that I can't remember right now. It's I don't know if it's not the amygdala. It might be. I'm not gonna even try. So it's a part
Some
of
part of
your
the
brain
brain.
that is it it varies in size, and it's like the the more disciplined you are, the more like brave you are, the more you do things that are harder for you, the bigger this thing is. This bigger this brain is. It's the risk takers. It's the ones that will perceive and persevere and make the distance, and the ones that the people that struggle with moving outside of their comfort zone, it's smaller in. And it's something that can change and you can grow it. So if you have a hard time doing something, like even like one of the things like getting up and exercising, and if it's like or going for a walk to get the mail, say it's just going to get the mail, and if you're like, man, you do not want to get the mail, you do not want to get the mail, you do not want to get the mail, it becomes smaller, so it's harder for you to work against that, to simply go get the mail. And it makes it kind of more stagnant and more stagnant, to where you stay in your comfort zone. You stay in your comfort zone, and it's like your world, in a sense, gets smaller as it gets smaller. And so you have this place of where you're in your comfort zone, and it may be miserable. You may not like anything about it, but still it's what you're used to doing. It's the comfort zone. You're not pushing against it. And every single time you do something that you do not like that's good for you. Now, that's not saying like betray yourself. It's not going against your boundaries. It's not doing things to hurt yourself that you don't want to do. That's not what this is. It's when you do something that you really want to do, right? But you don't want to do it, or you don't have the energy for it. You don't want to walk and get the mail. You don't want to not eat the cookie and eat the salad. You don't want to do these. Every single time you do, it works that part of your brain, and it gets a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger, and it starts to become easier to do these things that are hard for you. It starts to become easier to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And once you start liking the thing, though, like pickleball was outside of the comfort zone, it like helped build that part of my brain. But now that I love it, I get to keep doing it because it's good for me. But it's like I'm finding my comfort zone. So I still have to find other areas to push against my comfort zone,
Yeah.
which I have plenty. I have plenty. But it's
Lucky
really
for us, we have a
fascinating,
podcast.
right? It's the people that it's a part of your brain that can atrophy, and it can expand, it can grow. So it really is something that you can build and make healthier every time you push against your comfort zone. Every time you do the hard thing, not the self-destructive thing. Every time you do the hard thing for you, you can make that part of your brain grow.
Were they attributing that part of the brain as well to longevity? Like, is that part of it? I think I remember you mentioning that, or maybe I'm thinking of something else.
If I remember right, and I don't know that I do, they were attributing it to longevity, to decreased risk of Alzheimer's. They had a lot. I actually remember where I heard it
Oh,
from.
cool.
It was on a Aubrey Marcus podcast with David Goggins.
Oh, nice.
And those two really went into it.
That sounds like your usual.
Right? I was growing my
Right?
brain while I was listening to that. I got some good information from that.
You got to stop kicking the floor,
I'm
baby.
trying. I'm really.
I know you're playing bouncy bouncy with your foot there, but you got to stop kicking the floor.
I try.
Okay. That's funny that's where it was. Because you went on a little bender when you were listening to Goggins a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What was that about?
I don't know. It was a part, because like he's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
He is not my cup of tea, and that's okay. He doesn't have to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was a part of his message that I needed at that part. So there was a moment to where I was gaining from hearing him. And so I just listened. And I mean, he says some wild things. And I just had like the awareness, like if it's not for me, like I don't.
It's all good, right?
Right? He's talking about, on one hand, he's talking about lawyers, and if you want to, become a partner, or these are the things that take, like, obviously he's not talking to me. I'm not a lawyer. I have no interest in being a lawyer. So I don't need to be like, well, I don't think that's a good choice.
Yeah, you're not climbing up the ladder in your corporate
Right?
lifestyle there.
Right. And that's not what's important to me, but that's going to benefit somebody else. So it was like, I don't need to disagree with his values on where you place your family in that role, because he's not talking to me. He's talking to the lawyer. He's talking to somebody in the corporate world. So what am I getting from it? And it was just that, for one, that part of the brain, the comfort zone. It was finding that depth of pushing yourself more than you think you have, because you think you'll stop at your limit is like a super low. I don't even know if it's like, I don't remember what it was, but it was like incredibly, incredibly low of where most people will stop.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the place I struggle with. I stop at that spot. I have pushed myself to a point where I struggle to push myself more. So much of things was a survival mode in my life, which meant I was constantly pushing against chaos, which kind of exhausted me. So now that I don't have that, it's really hard to find my strength to push against the comfort zone, because I want to rest. And that is a valuable part. Like, the rest is a part that I needed. And now I'm at a spot where, okay, this resting, this stagnation isn't benefiting me anymore. And I need to start pushing. And so finding motivation. I like motivation. I get motivated. I'm somebody that is like, I jive with motivation. I jive with energy. I jive with positivity. I like the activation of it. I like what that feels like. So when I find something that resonates, I lean into it. And every time I do, I'm building
That part of your brain.
Part of my brain. I'm building skills. I'm building tools, which is helping me lean forward and push against the comfort zone.
Well, I mean, the reality is everything that you and I have done in our relationship is exactly that. Like, where we're at in our relationship today, where we're at in our life today is, I mean, it's kind of the same thing where we were joking earlier, where pickleball is so far outside of your comfort zone that it's like another location, right? It's another area. Like, where we're at today in our life is so vastly different to what our comfort zone would have been 5 or 10 years ago. And we've grown and evolved so much to get to this point that it's like hard to imagine. Because there's parts of our life where I feel really comfortable right now. And we're also constantly at the edge of that comfort zone, trying to stretch a little bit more, trying to stretch a little bit more, trying to look a little bit deeper, trying to do more work, trying to internalize and reflect and all of that kind of internal growth stuff. But also, like, externally, this podcast is a big stretch for us outside of our comfort zone. We're always looking to kind of grow and expand and do different things. And it's hard. I think back over the course of my life, and my comfort zone, like, every time I have to stretch outside of it, I don't like it. I mean, I think that's probably normal, right? I think, unless you're David Goggins, right? And you just live outside of your comfort zone. But I think that every time I try to do something that I'm either not good at or that I'm afraid to do, or, all of those different things, it's super scary and hard. I don't like it. And the vast majority of the time, I don't do it. I think back over the course of my life and how many maybe missed opportunities I had because I was too afraid to do the thing or to step outside of my comfort zone. And I mean, that's a lot of missed opportunities. And of course, it's always the thing too where, right, we're always right where we're supposed to be and all of those kind of things. But yeah, I think about that part of my brain, and yeah, part of me feels like I've cheated it in a sense, because there's a lot of things that I didn't do that I wish I would have done. But then there's also things that I have done, of course, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm here now.
Yeah. That's the spirit.
I made it.
Yeah.
So we were talking, go ahead.
It was just interesting. The missed opportunities, the things that I haven't done, like, I have that too. But the majority of mine is being outside, like, the thing that would have pushed me out of my comfort zone was not doing so many of the things that others wanted me to do, of not doing, like, some of these, like, I feel like I've done, like, I learned how to bend at the will of others. And it's weird that that was somehow my comfort zone because I hated it. I didn't want to do it. It created like chaos and torment in me on so many things. And I just wanted to be able to escape. And I didn't feel like I had the power to. And so finding the power to, like, no, finding the power to, okay, this is how this is going to be. I'm going to get out of this situation. Finding the power to do that is what's outside of my comfort zone. And it was really hard to build that. And I've been building that for a long time. But that's it's weird to look at the thing that I didn't want to do was in the comfort zone. And it just meaning because it was harder. So that's why I said at the beginning, it's like, it's not doing things that you don't want to do. It's not having somebody say, like, control you and then you think, well, I must be growing my brain. Like that's
a different feeling.
That's a different feeling. That's a different thing.
Well, that's kind of the nuance that I was, when we were talking about this and you had brought this up and were sharing this thing with me, it got me thinking about what the feeling is inside of my body when I'm outside of my comfort zone. And I had real awareness of like the somatic experience of stretching and growth and outside of my comfort zone and what it actually felt like. And truthfully, it was a lot of, I could relate it to other feelings and other experiences when I was doing stuff that I didn't want to do. But there was just like this real subtleness in the emotion of it and in the physicality of it. Because I'm talking like it was heart palpitations. It was, I could feel myself starting to get tense, and it was fear that was coming in and all of these kind of things. And I recognized that was like, there's a difference for me at least where, oh, I got to fix my hip, my pickleball hip. Okay. The difference was, let's see if I can articulate it because it's so nuanced, but it was a really important thing where if I'm being forced to do something that I don't want to do and I still do it because I'm being forced to, right? There's an edge of like, yes, I've got the same nervousness and the same fear, but I also have this other thing inside that is like a fuck you. Like it's this edge of anger, right? Mm-hmm. This edge of frustration. And that isn't there when I'm simply doing something that I want to do that is outside of my comfort zone. And so it was interesting to recognize, like, it's like the base layer somatically of what's taking place for me is not exactly the same, but it's basically the same feeling. And I could feel like leading up to doing stuff that we were afraid to do or that we're afraid to do in life right now. I can feel the same fear rise up inside of me and create the same somatic responses in my body. And my body is like, cool, we're afraid. Now we know what to do. And it's starting to go down that rabbit hole, which I had to recognize was a different sensation than doing something that I don't actually want to do, but I'm being forced to do. And then it made me reflect and recognize, again, it's that little key missing thing for me where it was like the edge of like, I'm angry and I'm upset and I don't want to be doing this thing, but I'm still doing it because I feel like I have to, or I feel like I'm being forced to. And not having that was like recognizing that component, that fuck you part, that anger part wasn't present in this other part, suddenly opened up a bunch of space. Suddenly opened up this space where it was like, oh, yes, I'm afraid to be outside of my comfort zone and to do hard things. And because sometimes it's the simplest thing of like having hard conversations with you, right? It's something that I want to do. It's something that I feel like I need to do sometimes. It's something that I know will benefit us in the long run. But bringing something up to you and having a hard conversation, I'll get the fear, I'll get the anxiety, I'll get all of the other stuff, but I'm not getting the part of it that is causing me to feel like I'm forced to do it. Mm. And it was just a weird sensation in my body to notice it and to recognize it, because so much of, I think what would happen somatically or unconsciously or behind the scenes or inside my brain or whatever, it was my nervous system would recognize it as the same and shut down. And so I would stay frozen a lot of the time when it came time to do things that I might want to do, because my nervous system was treating it the same way that it would treat this other thing.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like it didn't have enough nuance or awareness to recognize, oh, that's not this. And so it was me bringing awareness to it, which then allowed me to be like, yeah, that's totally not the same thing. It's a very different feeling, because it doesn't have that added component of like, well, fuck you, then I'm going to, and I love it now. I mean, I shouldn't say that now, like doing things outside of my comfort zone feels a lot better. Like it feels a lot more exciting. It feels like we are stretching and growing that part of our brain. It does feel like kind of the edge of growth. And, every time we do that, I know that better things are coming, like more things are coming. It's kind of how we're creating this whole life that we're creating. So it's super cool. Do you remember this conversation? I know it's been a while since we had it, because it's been stewing around in our pot of things to talk about. But do you remember this conversation?
Yeah, like not verbatim. I can't say.
I'm going to
like,
need a replay.
Let me dictate it for you.
It was on July 15th,
Right.
3:30 in the afternoon.
But I do remember it, and like I've had awareness with it with things, and like one of the benefits, like what I've seen in myself, like we just yesterday we said I had awareness. I'm like, oh, I'm different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not I'm changing. It's like I'm different, because I've been doing this for a while. I've been practicing, and I haven't been able to have full awareness of the significance of it and what it's actually like done. Like that doesn't mean that things aren't hard, right? That I still don't struggle pushing myself. But if I just take a pause and I put a pin in this moment and I say, okay, what is different about me? What has changed? How do I behave differently now? How do I do things differently now? Naturally, it's when it's big and when it matters. It is now like really easy for me to hear when I don't want to do something, when I don't want to do it, when I don't like, if somebody tries to tell me to do something, instead of feeling like I have to do it now because of, whatever, we don't need to get into the trauma of why that is there. But I'm like, like it's laughable. It's like, yeah, that doesn't work on me. Like, you're not going to peer pressure me into shit. Like, I don't do what I'm told. Like, this doesn't work. I stopped. It's really easy for me now to say no to everyone else and say yes to me. I'm making room for me. There's stuff that I want to do now that I'm doing because I want to do it and because I can. And that doesn't mean that it's easy. It's fucking scary and it's hard and I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm doing really big things right now. And I'm scared, but I'm doing them.
Yeah.
I'm being brave. I'm putting myself out there. And when it doesn't feel good, I don't do it. Sometimes I still get a little lost in the mix of what's happening here, but then I can talk about it, which again is outside of my comfort zone. I'm like, I'm struggling here. I'm dealing with this space. So to me, it's made a big shift to where when things come up that normally would have paralyzed me because I didn't think I was good enough, didn't think I was ready. It was too big of a stretch. It was too hard. It's now, okay, let's do this. And if something comes up that I don't want to do, I just don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, I just won't do it.
Sounds like a boundary, babe.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Okay, boundary hack. When you start living outside your comfort zone, you can set boundaries.
I think that a lot of times we talk about boundaries all the time, and we talk about like, how do we create boundaries? How are we doing boundaries? We were even going to do early episode of the podcast on boundaries, and we were trying to talk it out. I don't remember if we actually sat down to record it or not.
I don't think we did.
But it was like, okay, we don't know enough about boundaries to actually do an episode of the podcast on them, right? Because the truth of the time, and maybe it's changed now. Maybe we can actually do an episode on boundaries. I don't think so. But
I mean, did you just hear what just happened?
Yeah,
Turns out
you're really good at setting them. I think
we're ready to talk about boundaries now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. What is helpful for you when it comes to, like, when you think about it through that lens now, where it's like, oh, I'm at a phase and a point in my life where I have zero qualms about saying no. Mm-hmm. What has allowed you to be able to do that, you think? What are some of the things that have helped?
Well, Honestly, it's taken a lot of work. It's taken a lot of reflection. It's taken a lot of like really, like I came from a space where I had no power. I came from a space of where I didn't have choices. I felt I didn't have power at all. And when you're a little kid, you don't have power, but it was a different kind of powerlessness that continued on. Learning how to really start, it took a lot of inner work, a lot of parts work, a lot of shadow work, a lot of healing, just to start to even be able to hear the parts of me that dared think something different. This is a big topic. It was honestly, like I keep saying, honestly, I'm really just trying to buy myself time, as I'm not really prepared for that question. It was a lot of things, and I've had really recent recognition of this, and I'm not perfect at it. I still get it really wrong a lot, but I'm getting it really right a lot.
One of our favorite clothing brands is now sponsoring the podcast. They're called Woolly, and we love their clothes because they're made out of 100% merino wool. This t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, it's one of theirs. I've also got some of their boxers on. I'm not going to show those to you, but I wear them every single day, and I love their boxers. We highly recommend you go check them out. Be sure to use the code Steph and Craig when you check out, and you'll save 15%. Go show them some love and get yourself some merino wool underwear, t-shirts, hoodies, pants, socks. They've got everything.
So I just kept going. And little by little, as I started to choose me and started to get healthy, I stopped allowing people in my life that were hurtful, that were harmful, that were toxic. I started to clean up my space, regardless of who they were. Because we have the whole thing of like, you only have, I don't know if I'm ready to say that part. It's like that you only have, one family. You only have cutting family members out is really painful and really scary. And it has another side effect that really fucking sucks, is that when you choose to cut somebody out, the people that are still wrapped up in that will then choose not to talk to you. Like, you don't cut like these people out, but then they choose to leave you because you cut this person out. You cut the center of the, you're like, this is toxic, this isn't healthy, I'm not participating in this anymore. And then other people disappear. And trying to be okay with that is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So, but that's their choice. And I'm still going to choose me. I'm still going to choose healthy, and I'm showing up for my kids better because I'm choosing me and I'm choosing healthy. And I really hope that they choose them no matter what. No matter what, no matter who it is, they always choose themselves. And you're like, oh, that's selfish. Well, okay. Yeah, good. Be selfish.
I don't think that's selfish at all, Steph.
Selfish.
I think that's what it's all about.
You're supposed to take care of yourself. It's not using other people for your benefit. That's not what this is. It's not allowing people to use and hurt you for their benefit. Like, you get to be healthy. You get to choose. So I've cleaned up my space, and more and more just working on myself, pushing those comfort zones, working on myself every day. I don't want to have to do it every day.
But I choose to.
But I choose to, because I know what life is like when I didn't. Who I am now, the life that I live now, I never thought was possible. It wasn't something that I ever thought was accessible to me. It wasn't possible. There was just no way. In fact, I wouldn't even allow myself to think it, because that's a terrible person. That's a selfish person. That's, who do they think that, all of the things, like I didn't deserve that. I was never good enough. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I am. Do I have a lot to heal? I do. But like, if you listen to the podcast, I got some shit.
It makes me think about we had an episode, and I don't remember which one it was, but we were talking about how hard healing is, how hard it is to change your life, how hard it is to do all the stuff that we have been able to do and again, it's like decade, we've been doing this thing called healing. I mean, truthfully, our whole life, but I mean, consciously in active ways for, 8-9 years. And it's really hard to do deep work on yourself when you're still in chaos, when you're still in survival. And so I think that as you're talking through all of this stuff, as we're talking through the idea of the comfort zone and we're pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone, I mean, I'm not stretching outside of, it's like you said earlier, right? The ability to stretch outside of your comfort zone is pretty much non-existent when you're in fight, flight, or freeze or fawn, right? When you're in an activated response, the last thing you're doing is like, oh, let me do this scary thing. Everything's fucking scary. Everything's fucking horrible. Everything's really, really hard. You're not looking for ways to stretch that more. You're looking for ways for, to make things smaller. I need my zone to be smaller. I need everything to come closer. Not everything, but I mean, do you know what I mean? It's like things are really challenging right now. I'm not looking for ways to stretch and grow. I'm looking for ways to survive. And so I think that's a big factor is we're at a phase of life right now where we have created we have taken steps, we have made decisions, we have set hard boundaries for both of ourselves to where we're actually able to now be in a safe enough environment where we can actually start to grow and stretch outside of our comfort zone. And I think that's a very, very important part. And that episode that we did that, when we talked about that, we've had a lot of people that have responded to it as well and acknowledged that, yeah, that's a big factor. Like you can't do a lot of healing work. You can't do a lot of growth when you're stuck in those chaotic moments still, when you're still trying to survive and get through life. And that, I mean, it makes perfect sense and it sucks because we were in that phase for so long. I mean, it's kind of the thing where it's like, well, what do you do then, right? If you're still stuck in chaos and you're still stuck in activation all the time and life doesn't feel safe, then how do you make it safe? How do you do the things that you need to do in order to get to that point? And it's different for everybody, of course, right? It's different for you and me. A lot of what you have needed to do and a lot of what you have done looks very, very different than what I have done and what I've needed to do. But I think that this stretching and growing and expanding kind of outside of the comfort zone really can't happen unless your nervous system is regulated more often than not. When your nervous system is super jacked up all the time, it just doesn't feel safe. It's not even like on your radar, right? Something that comes up, like think about it. When we were highly activated all the time, when we were like in the mix of all of our chaos and all the crazy, if something presented itself that was like, hey, this would be a stretch outside of your comfort zone, fuck that. Like it doesn't even matter. It's not even like something that you have to spend a lot of time thinking about. You're like, I'm just not doing that. I'm not doing that thing right now. I can't muster and bring forth the energy that it would require to put myself into the mode and into the like energetically, thought, emotionally, all of these things I can't bring forth in order to do the thing that is outside of my comfort zone. It's too hard, right? You don't have the energy and the bandwidth for it. So bringing the awareness to this now and speaking about it through that perspective and through that lens makes me really, really happy because it's recognition of how much you and I have done to be able to have calm, regulated nervous systems more frequently, more often than not. Like we spend more time, this is what it means, babe, is that we spend more time in a calm, regulated body than not. How fucking cool is that to sit and think about, right?
Yeah.
We've got like 40 plus years of being inside bodies that were shit shows, that it was like fucking monkeys running the circus. It was crazy town the majority of the time, right? With just brief moments of calmness. And now we're at a phase of life where it's more calm, not just in our everyday life, but like, because that's the other thing too, is I think sometimes you can be in a very calm environment, in a very calm space, in a very calm frame of mind, but your nervous system isn't.
Yeah.
Right. You're still ruminating, you're still processing, you're still tense, you're still holding on to things. Like that's,
I love that masking,
mhm.
putting on this calm, like for the world to see, and inside is just complete. It's either this disconnect so far, and beneath that is this chaos. It felt like everything was chaos and damage control, and I had to somehow, because you still have to live life, you still
Yeah.
have to do things, and
Still have to
so
pretend.
you had to, like, it was impossible. Like,
Well, this is a really good sign then.
yeah.
This means that we're basically healed all the way.
We did it. We did it. We did it.
It's cool awareness though,
Yeah.
huh? I hadn't ever thought of it from that angle and from that perspective, but we definitely aren't doing much stretching outside of our comfort zone during those time periods. It was just survival. What else stands out to you about it? Anything off the top of your head? And it's okay if not, but
Yeah, right now I feel like I'm kind of reveling in the awareness of it all and just how significant it is and what it means and how really cool. Like there's parts of the puzzle that I've had awareness of and parts of the puzzle that I got recording right now.
right.
And so it's just like, wow, it's pretty, I'm grateful. I'm really, really grateful. And I know we got a long ways to go.
We do have a long ways to go. I think one of the edges for me right now, and I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, but it's kind of the thing that has come forth this year that's been really clear is you're my comfort zone, right? But we also have so many different, like, because of codependency, because of all the things that we kind of have enmeshed together with each other, it's not necessarily because we have some toxic codependency, because we have a past where we weren't the healthiest versions of ourselves with each other. Sometimes what it has required is, like you said, like creating this boundary of being like, no, I'm not going to do this thing. And the willingness to set those boundaries and making yourself a priority. That's kind of the thing that I've been really trying to work with this year, is not separating from you, right? It's the conversation around codependency where it's like we have to separate and pull apart and have this like conscious decision to not just be so with each other. And that's really hard for me. That's a big step outside of my comfort zone that I'm still trying to like lean into, because it's hard. Like it's just hard. I don't like it. Recently, we decided to stop teaching yoga for the time being, right? We've had this yoga class that we've taught every week for like a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. And we teach it together and I love it. And I love yoga and everything about it. But it was starting to feel like, it just didn't feel like where I wanted to put my energy for the time being. And we were having this debate back and forth over the course of a couple of weeks. And I was getting really anxious and nervous because it was sounding like you didn't want to set it down right now, that you didn't want to step away from it. So I could feel myself wanting to like represent differently. I could feel myself wanting to be like, okay, yeah, we'll keep doing it, when it truthfully would have been going against what I really wanted to do, what I wanted to do, what was best for me, or what at least felt like was best for me. And it was hard. It was a real struggle for me. And I mean, at the end of the day, I trust that you also, for your choices and decisions and reasoning and everything like that, agreed that, you felt like it was a good thing to do to set down yoga for the time being. But there were moments when we were having those conversations over the course of those weeks where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do if you're like, yeah, I really want to still teach yoga. It's still important to me. And I want to, because you were trying to debate about whether or not you wanted to change things up, or, you were really processing it. And I was super scared because I was like, if she says that she still wants to teach, I think I'm going to have to still teach with her, because the like scared codependent part of me would feel like, what it felt like was, if I said no, then I was basically, again, saying no to you, right? It's that really unhealthy codependent part of me that's like, can't stand to tell you no, can't stand to disappoint you, can't stand to, you know, all those kind of different things. So it was hard. And I was grateful. And maybe now as you're sitting there looking, anytime we express some vulnerability to each other, enter in emotional monitor, right? My hall monitor / emotional monitor comes in. He's like, excuse me, sir. Do you have a hall pass? Right? I'm pretty sure she's
safety patrol.
Yeah. Let's look at her real closely, because the way that she's reacting, she clearly is upset with you right now. And she clearly wants to teach yoga still. And you've clearly made a mistake. And you're now going to end your relationship because you spoke this thing. I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Do you want to sit in that, or do you want me to speak? Like, what? Like, do you want to just like handle that, or?
Oh, I don't need you to fix that emotional monitor.
That's what
part.
I was.
Yeah,
well,
no.
not even that. I was just like, I didn't know if you were wanting like. I that's the first time you said clearly that you didn't want to. Like, I just learned that today, that you didn't want to. I knew we decided, but I felt like it was my decision.
Really?
And I've been handling the fact that I wasn't sure where you were at, and I just had to be cool with it.
I
and
totally
trust
tiptoed
it.
around it, didn't
You
I?
did,
Fucking
yeah.
A.
So no, it's totally okay.
I mean,
We're
is okay.
practicing,
It is
but-
okay, and it is practice. But like, there's this weird thing that happens in our relationship, babe, where I have zero issues speaking clearly in regards to other things, right? And other like relationships and friendships and things like that. Like, I have no problem saying, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that. That's not for me. And then in our relationship, I'm like, it's really hard for me to differentiate myself from us as a couple. That feels really dangerous to me. And I know why. We've talked about it a lot on the podcast. It's something that I'm actively trying to work with and to work on. But yeah, I guess I could have done a better job of stating clearly what my real wants were in that space.
It's hard. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like, it's fascinating to me. You know, it's fascinating. This is fascinating to me.
What's fascinating about it?
Well, I'm just like, I'm glad I know. I'm glad I know now. I do. Like, there's the part of me that wants to. I'm just going to hold space for you in this spot, because I know what that feels like. I wouldn't make a decision that I thought was going to cost me you. In fact, you were a big part of the things that I would do what I thought you wanted me to do. And I did not want to do them. But I wanted you. I loved you. So like, you're a big part of I've had to start saying like no to. And that's really hard and scary. And I've gotten pretty good at it. I still suck at it in some areas, but for the most part, I feel like I will set a boundary. And there's other areas that I don't even know I need to set a boundary yet that I need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a space, and like, you do better than you realize you're doing. So there are areas where you'll speak and you'll come to me clearly. And the fact that you're in such turmoil means there's a lot more there, right? And that's okay, because that means they're rising to the surface. You're feeling them. So maybe you can't see them yet or getting so, but you're getting practice. More and more you're getting practice. And lucky you have a safe partner to practice with, even if it doesn't feel safe. And I'm not telling you because it's really scary that like, oh, you're safe, it's fine. I'm not saying that. What I am letting you know is that you get to practice, and I know how scary it is.
How many times like that statement of like, oh, you're fine, everything's fine,
Right.
It's safe, just relax, you can tell me everything's fine.
Fuck that. Right?
I don't know who you're talking to. My
Right.
emotional monitor over here says not safe.
Right?
Nothing is safe right now, right?
Yeah.
So I know that part of my brain that's like, we're in a safe relationship. I trust you. I know that I can say like not only no to you, right? But like, we can have really hard conversations with each other that feel devastating, that feel, we've been through some shit.
Yeah.
And there's this part of me that still is so afraid to, like you said, right, make those decisions that might risk, even if it's just risking you being mad at me. I struggle with it. But you did mention that you feel like looking at me, there's this weird thing too, Steph, where I feel like you and I see each other. Obviously, we see each other differently than we see ourselves. Mm-hmm. I see you doing things, what I believe to be clearer than you see the way that you do them sometimes, right? There's a lot of things that I see you doing that I don't feel like you see clearly, or that you acknowledge, or that you may not, you may not even recognize.
Are we talking shadow, or are we talking?
No, like positive things, the positive. Like the improvement and the growth and the expansion and the way that you're, stepping outside of your comfort zone, the way that you're doing more and more and more things. We were talking about this the other day, where you brought it up earlier too on the episode, where you're like, you're significantly different than you were in the past. Like you are recognizing how frequently you're doing things differently today than really ever before. And I see all of those things. I shouldn't say all of them, like I see it all, but I see a lot of that stuff. And I also think that there's a lot of stuff that I don't see. Yeah. And we have that conversation all the time too, where it's like, are you even doing any work? And you're like, as a matter of fact, motherfucker, I'm doing quite a bit of work on a regular basis. So it's interesting because I think that there's a lot of stuff that, it would be really easy for me to sit in this moment and feel a lot of shame and a lot of sadness and a lot of like, man, I'm not really doing as good of a job as I thought I was doing, because I didn't do a great job about this yoga thing. I didn't do a great job of communicating to you clearly what I wanted, what my needs were, what my boundaries were. So then I can spiral out into that and feel like I'm failing, because I feel like you're doing a much better job in regards to kind of prioritizing yourself. I feel like you do a way better job of prioritizing yourself than I do. But I don't think that's true. I think that's like the skewed perspective of how we see ourselves, because you could probably point out a bunch of ways that I do a really good job, not just, in everyday life with certain relationships and dynamics and situations, but also with us and in our relationship.
We just wanted to take a moment and hit pause on this episode and thank you so much for listening. We have a goal of reaching over 1 million people, and we need your help to do it. If you could take a moment, go to YouTube, search out Steph and Craig, and hit subscribe, that would help us a lot. Also, if you shared the podcast, maybe even this episode, that would help us reach our goal. And while you're there, check out all our other episodes and the many, many clips that we have. Again, thank you for your support. Thank you for being here. And we believe that healing is possible when we all do it together. And now, back to the episode.
Would you agree?
I would agree. And honestly, Craig, I think you're doing a really, I'll just say just for one thing, you know damn well I didn't want to play pickleball, right? Yes. But what did you do? You were strong. It was important to you. You didn't force me into it. You invited me along for it, right? This is just this is such it's such a tiny thing, but it is the tiny things that build up. It's the tiny things of, I did it here and I did it here and I did it here and I did it here. And now I'll be brave and do it here and here. The next thing you know, all of these teeny tiny little steps, you've gone grand distances. You've gone so far. So this is one of don't dismiss it, because this is yeah, I did it. I did it. You wanted to do it. You spoke for it. You not only spoke to me about it, but you spoke to other people. You were like, this is important to me and I want group in this. I want to play this. And you're finding other people where it's taking time, like Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings, and it's a few hours.
Yeah, we're getting up at 5:30 in the morning to make this happen. It's taking a
significant amount of time. And I'm not an alarm clock person, but I'm also leaning into that. So you're taking, you said this is something that was important. And you didn't say, you have to do it with me. You said, I'm going to do this. Do you want to do it with me? It wasn't a question of whether or not you were going to play. It was a question of who was going to join you on that. Because you decided you wanted to do it. You spoke something for yourself and you went towards it. And you do that a lot. You had the awareness yesterday that when you decide you want to do something, you do it. You act on it. So you are taking these things of what you decide feels right for you, and you implement them, and you do it fast. And sometimes you you're not counting these steps, and they're really big, and you're doing a good job with that. And you're giving me awareness on this like whole thing, because our dynamics on our relationship they've shifted. Like you finding it hard to not go with what I want. And like before, I felt like you didn't care what I wanted. Like it felt very much, it was the Craig show, and there was nothing, like I either got on board or I got left behind. I didn't feel like I had a say in a lot of things. And you chose. And so now that I'm like, no, you're not, there was some, like you mentioned, the toxic, right? So it totally makes sense to me now why and this might be an aha moment. I hope it is, because you're amazing, that you jumped to the side of the spectrum of, I'm not going to suggest anything. And she doesn't want to do any of these things. Everything that I do is going to be hurtful. I'm not trusting myself in the space, when you totally can. So it's like this like the hourglass just got flipped, and you're seeing it from this perspective now of where you're scared to say what you want. You're scared to say something that might upset me. You're also seeing me be stronger in the fact that I'm not going to go along with things. Hopefully I keep going strong, right? And you're looking at it from that point of view, but you're really doing a really good job, because you're not asking me to do things that are harmful. You're not asking me to do things that I'm not okay with. And if I'm not okay with something, you still get to do it if it's healthy for you, and I get to say no. And we just go about our day. Like jujitsu, I don't practice jujitsu anymore. I used to go with you, and that was like a thing. And you said like how much you loved that we were a jujitsu family, how much you loved that I went with you.
Yeah.
And I had to be okay with the fact that I might be disappointing you and letting that go. I had to be okay with the fact that I wasn't going to do that, because it didn't feel good for me anymore. I didn't feel good with those busy classes. It didn't feel good for me anymore. And I had to be okay with that. But I was just going to the classes you taught. And then eventually I stopped participating in your classes, but I would sit on the bench. And then I was like, I'm actually going to go to the gym and do other things when you're teaching your class. So it took me little baby steps, but nowhere along the way did you stop teaching jujitsu because I didn't want to do it. And it wasn't even implied, there's just like, and I know these are just like moments, right? They're just little things of where our independence with each other, our interdependence with each other is growing, and it's getting healthy. And not teaching yoga together is hard, and it's sad, but it wasn't like it hit apart. I don't know that we're done, but I know we're done for right now, and we might be done.
Yeah.
But I know that nothing is like, I never be like, well, it's this way now, so it will always be this way.
Right? Plan on something like this is a certainty.
Yeah. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is, I know that. So that's why I'm like, I know we're done right now, and we might very well be done forever. With yoga.
Crazy, scary, codependency, Craig.
Right?
With yoga. We're just done with yoga, Stephanie.
But I think you're so like, I wonder. I think you're doing a good job, and I hear how unsafe you feel to speak those things to me. And I really hope that you keep practicing, and that you can let me know how I can help that feel safer for you. Because I know how scary it is. I know how safe. And also there's going to be times that we're just not going to line up.
Yeah.
You're going to say something that I'm not okay with, and we'll figure it out.
We usually do.
Right? And it'll be okay. Or, whatever happens, it'll be okay. But I really want to know if you don't want to do something anymore.
I know it's so important, because that's the big sticking point for years and years and years, where it's so easy for me to see when you do that, where you will just go along with whatever Craig wants to do. And it drives me bananas. Do you know what I mean? It's been one of those things that it's funny because it drives me bananas. And I also, who's not like that?
Right.
Right. Who doesn't want everything the way that they want it.
And get mad when it doesn't happen a little bit. Yeah.
Right. It's human nature, I suppose. Right. But I also recognize fully that it was significantly out of balance for the majority of our relationship. And as always, there's layers to that, right? Where it wasn't just, I'm this super dominating, overbearing asshole that forced you to do everything. I mean, it's the narcissist and the co-narcissist. It's the codependency dance back and forth.
Immediately.
When we talk about these things, babe, when we talk about, my neck hurts so fucking bad.
I know.
I have some weird, take your pick, pickleball, jiu-jitsu, fucking, maybe it's because we stopped teaching yoga now and my neck hurts. Who knows?
It.
Right. But I've been sleeping like shit. And when we got ready to record, I was like, oh, it's going to be great because it's on the, and I'm like, no, it's on the exact wrong side because I'm sitting here looking at you and I'm like, this would feel great.
Right.
I need to look this way for a minute and stretch this bad boy out. But
just focus on looking at the camera, not at me. It'll be good.
Stephanie, when we talk about things about, like when we're really talking through the process of what codependency has been for us and what it looks like for us to heal through it and to shift it and change it, I feel so stupid. I feel so little and naive and dumb because it's like a healthy interdependent relationship seems obvious, right? Yeah. Of course you get to say, yeah, I don't want to do that. And of course I would be like, cool, no big deal. You get to do what you want to do. I would never force you to do anything you don't want to do, consciously or subconsciously. It seems so obvious that it seems like, why would you do it any other way? And so I feel really dumb a lot of the time when we're trying to heal and change this, because it feels like, why was I doing it this way to start with?
Right.
Why have we done it this way for our entire relationship? It's not healthy. It's not good. It doesn't serve either one of us. All it does is create more shit, right? So I feel so stupid talking about it because you were outlining like this little thing where, and I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And then I'm just like, man, I just feel dumb.
I get that.
I just feel so, like you didn't figure this out earlier, Craig. You should figure that one out. That's obvious, right? And I'm like, well, I was just doing the best that I could. And I know that that's part of it. I know that, because these things that we're stuck in, and we're not stuck in them, these things that we're healing through and that we're changing and that we're stretching outside of our comfort zone, right? Like healing codependency, stepping away from that enmeshed relationship that we've had for so long is massively outside of my comfort zone. Almost to the point where it freezes me. It's like, it's so scary sometimes that it puts me into activation and I get stuck and frozen and I'm too scared, right?
Yeah.
Because you are such a place of comfort for me. And you're also a place of, like, you're not only my safe place and my place of comfort, you're my safe place. You're the place that I want. Like, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm sad, if I'm hurt, all of these kind of different things, like, you're the person that I want to be with to help me feel better. You're the person that helps me feel safe. It's you. And there's also unhealthy aspects of that because of how that has looked over the course of our relationship, because of the way that it's been too much to the extreme, right? Too much to this other end of the spectrum there. And yeah, I mean, we're just doing our best as usual. Trying.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know, babe.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, I resonate with feeling like stupid. I'm like, how have I not figured this out yet? Where's the, especially admitting all the points of thought and behaviors, and it's like, I can't believe I acted that way. I can't believe I feel that way. Like, a lot of this is just like, honestly, it still surprises me to hear how, like, to hear you describe it sitting here and how much you need me. right? It's like, that's not what you show me. So it's like, really? Because, so it's just like, and then I'm like, what am I missing?
You
Like,
say
there's
that,
so much.
you've said that a lot over the course of our relationship,
Yeah.
especially like in the last few years when I've expressed more and more of this kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff to you. And I think that there's a component of, because you're like, it surprises me because that's not what you show me. And I agree with that. And I also think there's a component of it where you didn't see it.
Oh, well, yeah.
Because it's that thing where our perception is shaping the
Oh,
reality.
my perception definitely comes in and
Right.
dictates what I think is happening.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And so there's like this part of it where it's like, no, babe, I've been showing you this for a long time.
You probably have.
And your perception was just, he doesn't love me. He doesn't care about me. He doesn't even care what I think.
That's
I'm
my
just-
root program. Of course, that's what
Right.
it was. So I very much would project that all over to you.
Yeah.
All over, not to you, but all over on you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that makes me really sad. I feel like I know we're talking about like the healthy, the secure, and that is the goal, but there's also like, it breaks my heart for the part of me that just felt so unloved and not good enough this whole time. And you were like, I know you love me. I know you love me. I know you got me. I know that. And there's a lot of parts that, not just a part of me, there's several parts in me that, just didn't, that couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And like that part, missed out on a lot. But if all those parts were online, then we'd never heal codependency. Like, we both have to have, I don't know, babe. I don't know. I don't have any of these answers. I'm still practicing. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
And it's hard. And then there's that, like you're my safe space too. You are, like, you used to be, like, as much as, like, you were like my air, my food. Like, you were, like, it was Craig. It was Craig. Whatever you said, I believed. Whatever you thought was real, I believed. Like, it was ridiculous. And that's like, I'm embarrassed for, like, it was, you could do no wrong. And even when you started doing wrong, I found ways to make myself wrong for it and not you. And ways to get on board with you and ways, you know what I mean? It was just such an unhealthy dynamic. And the thing that shifted is, you're still my safe space and you're always going to be my safe space as long as we're together. But I am my safe space now too. Like, I recognize that you're not always right. I recognize, and I'll stand up with that. I'll fight you on things. And I don't mean like, but I'm just like, I'm not, like, that's not my reality too. I don't agree with you and I don't want to do it this way. And it's still hard because you're very sure you're right. And I'm like, I'm very sure I'm right. So sometimes we hit those impasses, but I'm trusting myself more. And I'm trusting myself that I can be my safe space, even if it means that you're really mad at me, or that you're going to stop loving me, or all of these things that come up. Because when it's completely rooted, my security is completely rooted in you. I'm so, like, you control everything. You control my mood. You control how I feel. You control my day. You control everything. And if you're not okay, then I'm not okay. And I couldn't live like that anymore. Rightfully so, right?
Yeah, rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
Vice versa.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're figuring it out, folks.
Yeah.
I was going to say one day at a time as the world turns. Is that an old soap opera, One Day at a Time? Or as
One day at a time, days of our lives.
Days of our lives.
Days of our lives.
Days of our lives here on the Steph and Craig show.
Pushing against the comfort zone. Every day we're
We'd be
pushing
hustling.
pushing against the comfort zone.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We wrap it up, babe. Give them something.
Wrap it up. Give them something. Just give the tagline.
No, tell them something.
Tell them something.
Tell the folks something. Go to YouTube. Do something.
I had this. I almost took us in a whole different direction. Okay.
Were you going to go on some tangent?
I was. I had an awareness yesterday, but we'll save that for another podcast.
Oh, let's actually.
No, we'll save it for another podcast.
Do it.
I cannot do it in a short breath.
Okay.
So we'll just have to continue on. It is a part of this conversation. It is about healing and comfort zone. I know.
We don't have to end. We're in
We
control of this. There's not somebody that's over there telling us to end and wrap up.
I'm still processing it too.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I've completely, you're like pushing against your comfort zone. I am by saying I don't have to. So
There you go. Good boundary.
go to
babe.
YouTube. We would appreciate it so much. We have a goal to, how much am I going here? Now I'm totally panicking. Go to YouTube and hit subscribe. Follow us on there. It really helps us out. The more people that we have subscribing, the more people that we can reach and help. And we really want to help millions of people. There's so many of us that are going through these crazy things and these feelings and going through life and not finding a way to talk about it, not feeling like anybody else might feel the same way or have the same struggles. And it's not that anybody thinks they're so unique. It's just sometimes that shame comes up and those things that you see that you just feel like you're the only one. And so when you start hearing other people's stories and relating and seeing ways out, it helps. It helps because we all heal. We believe we can all heal.
We all do better
when we heal together. So I'm sucking
We
at
might
this.
be
I need
tired.
you to finish this.
We
I
need some
can't.
lunch. We need some food right
Yeah.
now, everybody. Thank you for listening and tuning into the Steph and Craig show. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen. Share this episode with a friend and come follow us wherever you can find us,
Yeah.
including at the store. If you want to be a creepo and follow us around. Somebody stopped me the
Say
other
hi.
day and was like, hey, I think I know you. And I'm like, oh, shit. Luckily, it was just from jiu-jitsu. It wasn't a big deal, but expect the best.
Plan for the greatest.
We'll see you on the next
We got
episode.
a wild ride. Wait and see, you and me. We were meant to be.
We want to make something perfectly clear. This podcast is intended for entertainment and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as a substitute for professional advice. We're sharing with you our own personal experiences and insights, things we have found to be helpful on our healing journey. But we are not licensed therapists. If you need help, it's important to seek out a qualified professional. Remember, we believe that we all do better when we heal together. See you soon.